When crafting a narrative, one of the first things I think about is the influence it may have on my audience. Narratives that relate to the individual and help them through their own challenges are incredibly important to me as I try to navigate my own life in a similar way. Literature is a guiding force. When I think of this, one of the most influential literatures I can think of is the popular video game Red Dead Redemption 2, written by Dan Houser, Michael Unsworth, and Rupert Humpheries. Set in the United States of America in 1899, the story follows Arthur Morgan and his found family, the Van der Linde gang, as they attempt to make a dishonest living for themselves amongst the troubles that follow them. What I enjoy most about this piece of literature is the presentation of legacy through how it affects people and the world they live in. The literary aspects that communicate these messages best are the setting the text takes place in, and the characterization of Arthur and his relationships with significant members of the Van der Linde gang. These elements together craft one of the most touching literatures I have ever experienced. Set 3 decades after the American Civil War, the America depicted in Red Dead Redemption 2 presents the struggle of changing cultures and lifestyles. Legacy is present through this setting as the cultural changes occurring in America indicate a shift in the desired legacy the people of America wish to leave behind. No one wants the lawless gangs around due to the misery and tragedy they spread, a legacy that is tinged with blood and helps no one. As will be discussed through Arthur's characterization, this is a realized aspect of Arthur's arc. The setting is very important in mirroring Arthur's internal conflict as a fight for the good of America's culture, as opposed to the good of himself and the gang. Arthur Morgan is constantly at odds with himself throughout the game. Orphaned and adopted by the Van der Linde gang from a young age, Arthur is greatly reliant and influenced by Dutch, the gang leader. No one in the gang is a saint and has murdered, robbed, and dishonored many innocent people. As the circumstances of the gang situation get worse, Arthur becomes ill with tuberculosis after beating a sick man to death to collect a loan in the beginning of the story.
I'm dying, sister.
Okay?
Yeah, I got TB. I got it. Beating a man to death for a few bucks.
Arthur reveals late in the story that he had not always been a bachelor fighting for Dutch and his gang in a conversation with his sister.
I had a son. He passed away. I had a girl who loved me. I threw that away. My mama died when I was a kid. And my daddy, well, I watched him die. And it weren't soon enough.
Haunted by a past of loss, regret, and abuse, these events weigh heavily on Arthur as he realizes with more and more clarity that he is a bad man. An event that evidences his desire to do right by others, Arthur and a fellow gang member assist in the Native Americans' resistance against the state as they protect their lands and people. Arthur wants to help because he is touched by the father-son relationship between Rains Fall, the chief of the Wapiti tribe, and his son Eagle Flies. The author may have been implying Arthur's own yearning for a healthy father-son relationship. Arthur's relationship with his fellow gang member and stand-in brother John Marston and his son Jack Marston show his desire to be a positive force in the life he leads. Arthur helps John and his family throughout the story. As things start to fall through in the Van der Linde gang and Dutch begins to lose his mind, Arthur insists with increasing persistence and intensity that John takes his family and leave before hell breaks loose. Arthur tells John on different occasions,
Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over.
and
Just do one thing or another. Not be two people at once. That's all I'm saying. It ain't that simple.
this latter quote implies the conflict Arthur struggles against, as half of him feels devoted to the Van der Linde gang and their lifestyle, and the other half yearns to run away with his ex-fiancée Mary Linton. Faced with the family he has lost and the inevitability of his own death, Arthur sacrifices himself for John and his family so they may live a fruitful life together. In his last meeting with Dutch, of whom facilitated his death, simultaneously the least and most supportive figure he had ever known, Arthur says to him,
I gave you all I had. I did.
The plot moves on to follow John in his journey in caring for his wife and child unconditionally. Despite being raised by the cruel Dutch Vanderlyn, subject to his dishonourable legacy, and a victim to multitudes of losses and regrets, Arthur accepted what was meant for him with grace by attempting to right the wrongs he and others had done in his lifetime. Red Dead Redemption 2 aims to infer that one reaps what they sow, and this is all the more reason to leave a legacy worth subscribing to. A colonizer, murderer, absent father, and all-around sinner, Arthur understood the consequences of the legacy he left behind.
But I know now that you don't get to live a bad life and have good things happen to you.
In the fiction piece I am planning, I am aiming to encapsulate the complexity of conflict within my character as he struggles with the implications of death and the world around him. My character will have aspects that are similar in terms of the mirroring of characterization to the setting around him. The environment, as seen in the storytelling of Red Dead Redemption 2, is one of the best storytelling features available to a writer.